So, according to the gene keys, every 5 to 6 days we will transit under a different gene key. Right now, we're in a transit day and we're transiting into gene key 54. This is the shadow of greed, the gift of aspiration, and the city or the divine expression of ascension. This also brings us through the Tao. So, I wanted to bring in the Tao Oracle today with the reflection of this hexagram for 54. So, according to the I Ching, hexagram for 54 is the marrying maiden. That's the imagery right there. Some keywords: a compromising situation, subordination, succumbing to seduction, manipulation, and low self-esteem. So I'm going to read the summary of the from the Tao, and then I'm going to read the 6 ways that this energy could show up in our life. I like to think of them as rungs on a ladder. So you can go from the first rung into this is our lone wolf journey, bringing it into partnership, bringing it through a network, bringing it back out for others to learn in a family, as a society, and then the unpredictability of the top line, the 6th line of we don't know what's going to happen with this energy once we get at the top of the ladder with it. But this is just a fun thing to contemplate today while we are in Sunday, day of personal reality and expanding our awareness. So here we go, the marrying maiden. Waking up to the realization that there's a fatal flaw in what you thought was going to be the perfect situation can be quite a shock. The disturbing news is that the marrying maiden brings about inequality, subordination, or somehow unconsciously allowing oneself to be put into an inferior position in relation to others. This might have arisen out of your desire for a certain position, or from failing to respect yourself and your own capabilities to the extent that you've compromised your own truth. Perhaps you've wanted to believe things about yourself that deep in your heart you knew are not true, and have allowed yourself to be manipulated through flattery or unrealistic promises. Dealing with the feeling of having been used or understanding that you have compromised what's truly important to you requires absolute honesty with yourself. Whatever the circumstances might have been in the beginning of the present cycle, finding out that you've become a pawn in someone else's game is such a rude awakening that it's impossible to ignore it or brush it aside. One of the most painful aspects of facing the truth is that you risk finding out that you've been sold, that you've sold yourself short by entering into agreements that in no way reflect what you really want or need. And it seems either difficult or impossible now to get out of them. If this is the case, it is crucial to reflect unemotionally on how you've cooperated in the seduction of what was motivating your consent. It means asking some pretty straightforward questions of yourself. Have you ignored the whisperings of your own intuitive feelings in favor of the desires of the mind for prestige or position, or because you've just wanted to be liked? If so, then you have to take responsibility, at least in part, for how your own desires have contributed to the current situation. Succumbing to seduction means that you've given more importance to the superficial and the imagined than you've given to the deep and the real. This choice almost always creates a subtle wound in the being that may not immediately be noticeable. Inevitably, though, the injury will make itself felt. Whenever we've compromised our authenticity and truth, the first symptom is usually a feeling of emptiness within. Each of us at one time or another has pulled off center by longings for love, security, or recognition. We live in a world that encourages and rewards cleverness and pretense, and pays homage to the latest trends in its hunger for the new. But to live in make-believe is to remain immature, and those who insist on living in a fantasy gradually lose touch with those that they really are, with who they really are. The only way through the pain of being compromised is to allow yourself to feel it, and to take responsibility for your part in it. This is the first essential step towards release and a renewal of self-respect. The term marrying maiden, by the way, is a metaphor. Chinese custom accepted that a man could take an additional wife for his pleasure, She had no real status in the household, and her position was contingent upon her usefulness to her husband. So that's what the term marrying maiden is describing here. Bottom line, line 1. It's wise in any situation to be alert to what exactly it is you're getting yourself into before you sign your name on the dotted line. It might make sense in the overall scheme of things to put yourself at someone else's disposal, but only if your inner sense tells you that you will truly benefit from the experience. Remember, a person who's really worthy of such trust will never exploit you and will use every opportunity to encourage you to continue to grow and mature to the point that you can stand on your own. Line 2. It's helpful to remember that sorrow can be a turning point that shifts your focus towards respecting yourself, rather than hoping that respect will be given to you by others. It takes courage to follow your own path, especially when it flies in the face of convention. Nevertheless, anything short of walking that path is a denial of your right to grow into your own individual uniqueness. Line 3. Peace of mind can only ever really be realized when you're able to fulfill the potential you came into the world to express. A desire for things to be different from how they are is often an indication of how far you've strayed from that potential. Consult the inner map of your heart before you take another step. Line 4. Making mistakes is inevitable. It's how we learn and grow stronger. Avoid feeding any negative habits that only serve to cover your wounded pride, and don't be tempted to blame others for your present circumstances. If you don't know what to do next, the best thing to do is wait. Line 5. It can be embarrassing to take responsibility for having been taken for a ride, but that was you standing out there on the highway with your thumb out, wasn't it? The silver lining to the cloud that might be hanging over you now is that you've grown not only older, but wiser because of the experience. So don't squander the lesson by carrying any residual embarrassment or defensiveness into the future. And line 6, top line, the wild card. What is past is gone forever, and even if you could bring it back, it would not restore your sense of well-being in the here and now. No matter how great the temptation may be to act impulsively or seek quick fixes to your distress, it would only prolong the pain of dealing with the issues at hand. If you've been keeping up a false front, it's time to let it fall. Only the real can encounter the reality, and the encounter is overdue. So there you go. Shadow of greed. How often do we have a hidden agenda where we're not just completely transparent of whatever our true intention is? I like to consider that anytime we have a relationship, there's always a third. Every relationship is a trinity. So what's the third that you're bringing in your relationships? Is it stress? Is it love? Is it joy? Is it ideas? Vibration of who we spend our most time with is what we will manifest into our reality. So make it count. Sending you so much love.